Hello, everybody. Forgot to put that one on. Yay, little crab buddy, let's go! GG's! Hello, Princess Yana, so welcome in. Hello, Jen! How are you guys doing today? And also, congrats on that jackpot on your first fish. Wow. That was a good one. You're using the cutest emotes. Ranatia? Ranite? I'm not sure how to say that name. I am butchering it. That is me today, butchering stuff. They are from Rana? Where's Rana? I don't believe I've heard of that place. Rhymes with leaflet. Who's leaflet? I don't know leaflet, but they sound cool. Alrighty. Tell me a little bit about these. Slime VTuber. That sounds interesting. Sounds like a very cool VTuber.
Yay!
Yay! Hello, Data. Welcome in. Hello, hello. And Kitty Cat saying hello to Blurp as well. Let's go. Everybody's welcome in here. Slayer, hello. Welcome in. All the cool cats are popping in. Wow. Seems everybody's exciting for some Moby Dick today. Wow. Duck, duck, duck. Oh, you are most welcome. You are most welcome, Prince Oceanus. I just thought it would be fun to raid you again in a last night. No hairless cats. Nasty. What's wrong with hairless kitty cats? Was supposed to be actual ducks. Did not work. Yeah, sometimes Twitch chat borks. And earlier today, my activity feed was completely borked. And apparently the only way to fix it was to log in and log out again, which I did not do. And it's fixed itself. I don't know what happened. Must have been something that Twitch did that took it down for a short while. Alrighty. Let us do our quick prayer. If you have any prayer requests, let me know and I'll do a quick prayer for you. And then we shall go over and get the camera set up because, as per usual, I did not set it up correctly. You love scrungly cats? Nice. Yeah. Alrighty, I'm gonna pause the music before it gets too wild again. Alrighty. Thank you, Lord, for this beautiful day that you blessed us with. Thank you for family, friends, and community. Lord, I pray that you bless everyone who joins me here today or who watches the VOD. Lord, we pray for those who are currently struggling with their health. We pray that you touch them with a hand of healing, O Lord, and strength and endurance. bless them, their families, and their friends, and I always struggle with this word. Support. Yeah. Keep your hand over them, O Lord, let your will be done. And Lord, we pray for the countries that's currently struggling with turmoil. We pray that you keep individuals and their families and friends safe, O Lord. And if they find themselves in danger, that you may lead them and guide them to safety, Lord. We pray that you bring peace over those countries. We pray for peace over Israel too. In Jesus' mighty name, may your light of peace shine all over us, all over the world. In Jesus' mighty name. Amen. Alrighty. You like the Lycoi cats? Because they look like little werewolves? Yeah. They're not exactly the prettiest kitties. And nowadays they're called wolf cats as well. Amen's in chat. Let's go! Our king in heaven is awesome. Munchkin cats have very short legs. Indeed they do. They're adorable. Yeah, I won't comment on the origins of the nickname Wolfcat for those Lycoi cats. But all I will say is that it's got something to do with me. Many moons ago. There's also a company with that name. All because they can't think of interesting names themselves. Very weird. This is why I don't like Facebook. I would love a cat, but I'm allergic and the hairless cats are expensive and oily. Yeah, they sell the hairless cats as minimal maintenance cats, but it's actually the opposite, because they don't have hair. They have to do other things, because their hair on a normal cat protects the skin a little bit, so they don't need to be so oily. So, but yeah, they need regular baths. They really do, and also sunscreen or some other garment if you take them outside for a while. My friend Sphinx cat leaves this oily spot wherever they sleep, since I babysit them. Or cat sit. Whatever. Cat sit. Yeah. How often does your friend wash them? Because I've known people to have those cats and they're not complaining about it, but yeah, and some individuals may be a little bit oilier than others, so there's that. I don't think any cat will compare to my late girl, Scout. Though she was a muted calico and the prettiest kitten ever. Aww. A mute kitty? Question. Not often enough would be my guess. Yeah, and if they don't get cleaned often enough, then they start developing skin conditions which can up the maintenance and the cost. What sorts of wild cats live near me? Well, we've got like... I struggle to get the name, but we have like smallish kind of cats. That's in here and around. But that was on the farm. So I'm gonna give you what I experienced when I grew up on the farm. So small wild cats whose names I don't remember. And then some sort of leopard type animal. Cougars and bobcats. I've only seen bobcats with my own 2 eyes. Yeah, I've heard that there's leopards in the area. Haven't seen them though. And I'm not even sure if it's leopards. It's some sort of... It is some sort of wildcat, largish. Well, I always say leopard, but my brothers always tell me, nah, you've got the wrong name. So I can't... I'm not entirely sure, but yeah. We have some here. We have some. Jen, all of them. Her coat was a diluted calico pattern. Oh, that's what you meant. Okay. Yeah. I kind of thought that was what you meant, but I wasn't sure. I've heard of mute cats before. They're adorable. Open their mouth to make a sound, but there's nothing coming out. Poor things. We don't have wild cats around here, other than house cats that went feral and managed to find somewhere warm in winter. Yeah, well, there are some people that would like put out little shelters and things for them. Righty, let us get the camera fixed up, shall we? So that we can start reading. And obviously, probably gonna have to go to the camera screen first. There we go. Nice. We have camera. We have book. It's what passwords? Well, this is what Google says. South Africa is home to a diverse range of wild feline species, including 3 major wild big cats: lion, leopard, and cheetah, and 4 smaller, often elusive wild species. The small wild cats are the African wildcat, caracal, serval, and the endemic vulnerable black-footed cat, which is considered the deadliest of all. Yeah. Yeah, I think we have serval in our area. I'm not sure. The note there? Yes, yeah, it's just commands. Yeah, no, it's stream commands. No. I write down all my passwords in a book. I would show it to you, but then I'd have to kill you. I'm just joking. I'm not a spy. But I'm still not gonna show you my book though. But it's written down. I don't leave it lying around. Said Slayer. I didn't mean to scare you. It was a joke, honest. Alright. Gonna move the camera. Because we need the right angle here. What is that? Pixel Bob? Get that bread. Alrighty, so this is where we are in the book currently. That's quite the face. Alrighty then. But yeah, I can talk about cats all day. I love cats. The music isn't too loud, is it? There we go. You guys should be able to read with me. Alrighty, well, nobody's complaining about the music, so I'm gonna assume it's a-okay. Cool stuff. Ah, and before I forget, thank you, Sir Oceanus, for the hydrate. Cheers. And you guys must also hydrate. It's good? Nice. I did the double sip because I was delaying the hydration. Ooh! We have to see what this is. Oh, whale! GG, Slayer! Nice! That's quite the coin bag. I still don't know what this game in particular, what the goal is of their coins. Alrighty, friends, let us continue. Oh, and there's a star. Catch the star. It's floating around. Don't forget the star. Alrighty. Chapter 32. Can you believe it? We're on chapter 32. What's that? Cetology? Or ketology? I don't know. I'm gonna have to see what that is. Heck, we haven't even started reading it, and we already have a word. Nice! Slayer caught the star, let's go! Right. Don't know what that is, so we will look it up in the book. Which I very thoughtfully brought closer. It's in my bookcase here. Wow, my timing. Your timing was spot on. GG's. I know it's hard for you guys to catch those stars. Takes a few tries normally. Data's got it down though, so he's the one that you have to beat. He's got all the stars. He's caught most of the stars, so he's the Star King. So, whoops, you're gonna have to dethrone him or something. I don't know. Leg, yeah. Yeah, it's more the delay because of the connection. You know, with everything being so far. You can't play the star jump anymore? How so? Is it because you're on your mobile? I'm sure you should still be able to do that. System lag. Oh. I see. Alrighty. Let us continue then, shall we? Already we are boldly launching upon the deep, but soon we shall be lost in its unshored, harborless immensities. There we go. Ere that come to pass, ere the Pequod's weedy hull rolls side by side with the barnacled hulls of the Leviathan. At the outset, it is but well to attend to a matter almost indispensable to a thorough, appreciative understanding of the more special Leviathanic revelations and allusions of all sorts which are to follow. It is some systematized. You've got the lurk already. Thank you for the lurk. Enjoy your lurk, Sir Slayer. It is some systematized exhibition of the whale in its broad genera that I would now fain put before you. Yet it is no easy task. The classification of the constituents of a chaos, nothing less, is here essayed. Listen to what the best and latest authorities have laid down. No branch of zoology is so much involved as that which is entitled cetology, says Captain Scoresby, A.D. 1820. It is not my intention, were it in my power, to enter into the inquiry as to the true method of dividing the cetaceae, or something like that, into groups of families. Okay, so whaleology? Anyway, utter confusion exists among the historians of this animal. Sperm whale in brackets. Says Surgeon Bayle, A.D. 1839. Unfitness to pursue our research in the unfathomable waters. Impenetrable veil covering our knowledge of the cetaceae. A field strewn with thorns. All these incomplete indications that serve to torture us naturalists. Thus speak of the whale, the great Cuvier, and John Hunter and Lesson, those lights of zoology, anatomy. Nevertheless, though of real knowledge there be little, yet of books there are plenty. And so, in some small degree, with cetology, or the science of whales, many are the men, small and great, old and new, landsmen and seamen, who have at large or in level written of the whale. Run over a few. The authors of the Bible: Aristotle, Pliny, Aldrovandi, Sir Thomas Browne, Gesner, Ray, Linnaeus, Rondel, Rondelchius. That's quite the name. Trying to find the right spot here. Okay, Rondelchius, Willoughby, Green, Artidy, Siddal, Sebald, Brisson, Martin, Lacipede, or however you say that funky name, Bonneterre, Demarest, Baron Cuvier, Frédéric Cuvier, John Hunter, Owen, Scoresby, Bale, Bennett J. Ross Brown, the author of Miriam Coffin, Olmsted, and the Reverend T. Cheever. But to what ultimate generalizing purpose all these have written, the above cited extracts will show. Of the names in this list of whale authors, only those following Owen ever saw living whales. And but one of them was a real professional harpooner and whaleman. I mean Captain Scoresby. On the separate subject of the Greenland and right whale, he is the best existing authority. But Scoresby knew nothing and says nothing of the great sperm whale, compared with which the Greenland whale is almost unworthy mentioning. And here be it said that the Greenland whale is an usurper upon the throne of the seas. He is not even by any means the largest of the whales, yet, owing to the long priority of his claims, and the profound ignorance which till some 70 years back invested the then fabulous or utterly unknown sperm whale, and which ignorance to this present day still reigns in all but some few scientific retreats and whale ports. This usurpation has been every way complete. Reference to nearly all the Leviathanic allusions in the great poets of days past will satisfy you with the Greenland whale, without one rival, was to them the monarch of the seas. But the time has at last come for a new proclamation. This is Charing Cross. Hear ye, good people all, the Greenland whale is deposed. The great sperm whale now reigneth. Well, this guy is quite passionate about the cachalot whale. And that is the proper name of a sperm whale. It's actually a cachalot. For in case you didn't know. Now you do. I also like cachalot better than sperm whale. Anyway. There are only two books in which at all pretend to put the living sperm whale before you, and at the same time, in the remotest degree, succeed in the attempt. These books are Bell's and Bennett's, both in their time surgeons to the English South Sea whale ships, and both exact and reliable men. The original matter touching the sperm whale to be found in their volumes is necessarily small, but so far as it goes, it is of excellent quality, though mostly confined to scientific description. As yet, however, the sperm whale, scientific or poetic, lives not complete in any literature. Far above all other hunted whales, this is an unwritten life. Now, the various species of whales need some sort of popular comprehensive classification. If only an easy outline one for the present, hereafter to be filled in all its departments by subsequent laborers. and as no better man advances to take this matter in hand, and just put it a little bit closer, I hereupon offer my own poor endeavors. I promise nothing complete, because any human thing supposed to be complete must for that very reason infallibly be faulty. I shall not pretend to a minute anatomical description of the various species, or, in this space, at least, not much of any description. My object here is simply to project the draft of a systematization of cetology. I am the architect, not the builder. It is a ponderous task. No ordinary letter sorter in the post office is equal to it. To grope down into the bottom of the sea after them. To have one's hands among the unspeakable foundations, ribs, and very pelvis of the world. This is a fearful thing. What am I that I should essay to hook the nose of this Leviathan? The awful tauntings in Job might well appall me. While he, the Leviathan, make a covenant with thee? Oh, will he, the Leviathan, make a covenant with thee? Behold, the hope of him is vain. But I have swam through libraries and sailed through oceans. I have had to do with whales with these visible hands. I am in earnest, and I will try. There are some preliminaries to settle. This is a long chapter, folks. Strap in. First, the uncertain, unsettled condition of the science of cetology is in the very vestibule arrested by the fact that in some quarters it still remains a moot point where a whale be a fish. In his System of Nature, AD 1776, Linnaeus declares, I hereby separate the whales from the fish. But of my own knowledge, I know that down to the year 1850, sharks and shad, alewives, or whatever that is, and herring, against Linnaeus' express edict, were still found dividing the possession of the same seas with the Leviathan. The grounds upon which Linnaeus would fain have banished the whales from the waters, he states as follows: on account of their warm bilocular heart, their lungs, their movable eyelids, their hollow ears, pinum intrentem femanam mammus lactantum, and finally, ex lege natura jure meritoc. Can you guys not translate these words for me into English? That would be lovely. Instead of me struggling to read a language I don't even know. Anyway. I submitted all this to my friends Simeon Macy and Charlie Coffin of Nantucket, both messmates of mine in a certain voyage, and they united in the opinion that the reasons set forth were altogether insufficient. Charlie profanely hinted they were humbug. Be it known that, waiving all argument, I took the good old-fashioned ground that the whale is a fish, and call upon Holy Jonah to back me. This fundamental thing settled, the next point is, in that internal respect does the whale differ from other fish. Above, Linnaeus has given you those items, but in brief they are these: lungs and warm blood, whereas all other fish are lungless and cold-blooded. Next, how shall we define the whale? By his obvious externals, so as conspicuously to label him for all time to come. To be short then, a whale is a spouting fish with a horizontal tail. There you have him. However, contracted, that definition is the result of expanded meditation. A walrus spouts much like a whale, but the walrus is not a fish, because he is amphibious. But the last term of the definition is still more cogent, as coupled with the first. Almost anyone must have noticed that all the fish, similarly to landsmen, have not a flat, but a vertical or up and down tail. Whereas among spouting fish, the tail, though it may be similarly shaped, invariably assumes a horizontal position. By the above definition of what a whale is, I do by no means exclude from the Leviathanic brotherhood any sea creature hitherto identified with the whale by the best informed Nantucketers, nor on the other hand link with it any fish hitherto authoritatively regarded as alien. Hence, all the smaller spouting and horizontally tailed fish must be included in this ground plan of cetology. Now then, come the grand divisions of the entire whale host. And we get another first. First, according to magnitude, I divide the whales into 3 primary books, subdivisible into chapters, and these shall comprehend them all, both small and large. 1. The filio whale. 2. The octavo whale. And 3. The duodecimo whale. As the type of the filio, I present the sperm whale. Of the octavo, the grampus, and the duodecimo, the porpoise. Folios, among these, I here include the following chapters. 1. The sperm whale. 2. The right whale. 3. The finback whale. 4. The humpback whale. 5. The razorback whale. 6. The sulfur bottom whale. Yeah. Okay. So number 6 is the sulfur bottom whale. I don't think I've ever heard of that one. And then he's got some fine print here. I am aware that down to the present time the fish-styled lamatans and dugongs, big fish and sowfish of the coffins of Nantucket, are included by many naturalists among the whales. But as these big fish are a noisy, contemptible set, mostly lurking in the mouths of rivers and feeding on wet hay, and especially as they do not spout, I deny their credentials as whales, and have presented them with their passports to quit the kingdom of cetology. That's hilarious. Now we're getting a book of each one of these whales. Right, before we get into the books of each whale, another hydrate. Another hour before break time. I already want to start yawning. Yes, our guy definitely got too much time on his hand to get thinking and all philosophical and stuff. Alrighty. Book 1. Folio. Chapter 1. Sperm whale. This whale, among the English of old, vaguely known as the trumpa whale, and the five-setter whale, and the anvil-headed whale, is the present cachalot of the French. Yeah, there we go. Cachalot, let's go. But I do like the names trumpa whale and anvil-headed whale. Alright, cachalot of the French, and the potfish of the Germans, and the macrocephalus of the long words. He is, without doubt, the largest inhabitant of the globe, the most formidable of all whales to encounter, the most majestic in aspect, and lastly, by far the most valuable in commerce, he being the only creature from which that valuable substance, spermaceti, is obtained. All his peculiarities will, in many other places, be enlarged upon. It is chiefly with his name that I now have to do. Philosophically considered, it is absurd. Some centuries ago, when the sperm whale was almost wholly unknown in his own proper individuality, and when his oil was only accidentally obtained from the stranded fish, in those days spermaceti, it would seem, was popularly supposed to be derived from a creature identical with the one then known in England as the Greenland or right whale. It was the idea also that this same spermaceti was that quickening humor of the Greenland whale which the first syllable of the word literally expresses. In those times also spermaceti was exceedingly scarce, not being used for light, but only as an ointment and medicament. It was only to be had from the druggists as you nowadays buy an ounce of rhubarb. When, as I opine, in the course of time, the true nature of spermaceti became known, its original name was still retained by the dealers, no doubt to enhance its value by a notion so strangely significant of its scarcity. Opine, I'm not sure what that is. Is that just like open? Don't know. And so the appellation must at last have come to be bestowed upon the whale from which the spermaceti was really derived. Book 1. Folio. Chapter 2. Right Whale. In one respect, this is the most venerable of the leviathans, being the one first regularly hunted by man. It yields the article commonly known as whalebone or baleen, and the oil specially known as whale oil, as an inferior article in commerce. Among the fishermen, he is discriminately designated by all the following titles: the whale, the Greenland whale, the black whale, the great whale, the true whale, the right whale. There is a deal of obscurity concerning the identity of the species, thus multitudinously baptized. So many names for one whale. What then is the whale, which I include in the second species of my folios? This is the great Mysticetus. It's quite of the English naturalists. The Greenland whale of the English whalemen, the Baleine ordinaire of the French whalemen, the Groenland's wolfish of the Swedes. It is the whale which for more than 2 centuries past has been hunted by the Dutch and English in the Arctic seas. It is the whale which the American fishermen have long pursued in the Indian Ocean, on the Brazil banks, on the northwest coast, and various other parts of the world, designated by them right whale cruising grounds. Some pretend to see a difference between the Greenland whale and the English and the right whale of the Americas, but they precisely agree in all their grand features. Nor has there yet been presented a single determinate fact upon which to ground a radical distinction. It is by endless subdivisions, based upon the most inconclusive differences, that some departments of natural history become so repellingly intricate. The right whale will be elsewhere treated of at some length, with reference to elucidating the sperm whale. Book 1, Folio, Chapter 3, Finback. Under this head I reckon a monster which, by the various names of Finback, Tallspout, and Long John, has been seen almost in every sea, and is commonly the whale whose distant jet is so often descried by passengers crossing the Atlantic in the New York packet tracts. In the length he attains, and in his baleen, the finback resembles the right whale, but is of less portly girth, and a lighter color, approaching to olive. His great lips present a cable-like aspect, formed by the intertwisting slanting folds of large wrinkles. His grand distinguishing feature, the fin, from which he derives his name, is often a conspicuous object. This fin is some 3 or 4 feet long, growing vertically from the hinder part of the back, and an angular shape, in which a very sharp pointed end. Even if not the slightest other part of the creature be visible, this isolated fin will at times be seen plainly projecting from the surface. When the sea is moderately calm and slightly marked with spherical ripples, and this gnomon-like fin stands up and casts shadows upon the wrinkled surface, it may well be supposed that the watery circle surrounding it somewhat resembles a dial, with its style and wavy hour lines graved on it. On that Ahaz dial, the shadow often goes back. The finback is not gregarious. He seems a whale hater, and some men are man haters. Oh, as some men are man haters. So this guy doesn't like other whales, by the sound of it. He's like a lone whale. Very shy, always going solitary, unexpectedly rising to the surface in the remotest and most sullen waters. His straight and single lofty jet rising like a tall, misanthropic spear into a barren plain, gifted with such wondrous power and velocity in swimming as to defy all present pursuit from man. This Leviathan seems the banished and unconquerable Cain of his race, bearing for his mark that style upon his back. From having the baleen in his mouth, the finback is sometimes included with the right whale, among etheritic species denominated whalebone whales, that is, whales with baleen. Of these so-called whalebone whales, there would seem to be several varieties, most of which, however, are little known. Broad-nosed whales and beaked whales, pike-headed whales, bunched whales, underjawed whales, and rostrated whales are the fishermen's names for a few sorts. In connection with this appellative of whalebone whales, it is of great importance to mention that however such a nomenclature may be convenient in facilitating allusions to some kind of whales, yet it is in vain to attempt a clear classification of the Leviathan, founded upon either his baleen or hump or fin or teeth, notwithstanding that those marked parts or features may obviously seem better adapted to afford the basis for a regular system of cytology than any other detached bodily distinctions, which the whale in his kinds presents. How then? The baleen, humpback fin, the baleen, hump, back fin, and teeth. These are things whose peculiarities are indiscriminately dispersed among all sorts of whales, without any regard to what may be the nature of their structure, or in other or more essential particulars. Thus the sperm whale and the humpback whale, which has a hump, but there the similitude ceases. Then this same humpbacked whale and the Greenland whale, which of these has baleen? But there again the similitude ceases. And it is just the same with the other parts above mentioned. In various sorts of whales, they form such irregular combinations, or, in the case of any one of them detached, such an irregular isolation, as utterly to defy all general methodization formed upon such a basis. On this rock, every one of the whale naturalists has split. But it may possibly be conceived that in the internal parts of the whale, in his anatomy, there at least we shall be able to hit the right classification. Nay, what thing, for example, is there in the Greenland whale's anatomy more striking than his baleen? Yet we have seen that by his baleen it is impossible correctly to classify the Greenland whale, and if you descend into the bowels of the various leviathans, why there you will not find distinctions of 15th parts as available to the systemizer as those external ones already enumerated. What then remains? Nothing but to take hold of the whales bodily, in their entire liberal volume, and boldly sort them that way. And this is the bibliographical system here adopted, and it is the only one that can possibly succeed, for it alone is practicable. To proceed. Book 1, Folio, Chapter 4, Humpback. This whale is often seen on the Northern American coast. He has been frequently captured there and towed into harbor. He has a great pack on him like a peddler, or you might call him the elephant and castle whale. At any rate, the popular name for him does not sufficiently distinguish him, since the sperm whale has also a hump through a smaller one, although a smaller one. His oil is not very valuable. He has baleen. He is the most gamesome and light-hearted of all the whales, making more gay foam and white water generally than any other of them. Book 1, Folio, Chapter 5, Razorback. Of this whale little is known but his name. I have seen him at a distance off Cape Horn. Of a retiring nature, he eludes both hunters and philosophers. Though no coward, he has never yet shown any part of him but his back, which rises in a long sharp edge. Let him go. I know little more of him, nor does anybody else. Book 1, Folio, Chapter 6, Sulphur Bottom. Another retiring gentleman, with a brimstone belly, doubtless got by scraping along the Tartarian tiles in some of his profounder divings. He is seldom seen, at least I have never seen him, except in the remoter southern seas, and then always as too great a distance to study his countenance. He is never chased. He would run away with roped walks of line. Prodigies are told of him. Adieu, Silver Bottom. I can say nothing more that is true of ye, nor can the oldest Nantucketer. Thus ends Book 1, Folio, and now begins Book 2, Octavo. And then we've got the fine writing at the bottom again. I'll continue that after I read this. Why this Book of Whales is not denominated the Quarto is very plain, because while the whales of this order, though smaller than those of the former order, nevertheless retain a proportionate likeness to them in figure, yet the bookbinder's quarto volume in its dimensioned form does not preserve the shape of the folio volume, but the octavo volume does. Right, octavos. These embrace the whales of middling magnitude. Among which at present may be numbered 1. The grampus, 2. The blackfish, 3. The narwhal, 4. The thrasher, 5. The killer. Book 2, Octavo, Chapter 1, Grampus. Though this fish, whose loud sonorous breathing, or rather blowing, has furnished a proverb to landsmen, is so well known a denizen of the deep, yet he is not popularly classed among whales. But possessing all the grand distinctive features of the Leviathan, most naturalists have recognized him for one. He is of moderate octavo size, varying from 15 to 25 feet in length and of corresponding dimensions around the waist. He swims in herds. He is never regularly hunted, though his oil is considerable in quantity and pretty good for light. But by some fishermen his approach is regarded as premonitory of the advance of the great sperm whale. Book 2, October, Chapter 2, Blackfish. I give the popular fishermen's names for all these fish, for generally they are the best. Where any name happens to be vague or inexpressive, I shall say so, and suggest another. I do so now touching the blackfish, so called because blackness is the rule among almost all whales. So call him the hyena whale, if you please. The veracity is well known, and from the circumstance that the inner angles of his lips are curved upwards, he carries an everlasting Mephistophelian grin on his face. This whale averages some 16 or 18 feet in length. He is found in almost all latitudes. He has a peculiar way of showing his dorsal hooked fin in swimming, which looks something like a Roman nose. When not more profitably employed, the sperm whale hunters sometimes capture the hyena whale to keep up the supply of cheap oil for domestic employment, and some frugal housekeepers, in the absence of company, and quite alone by themselves, burn unsavory tallow instead of odorous wax. Though their blubber is very thin, some of these whales will yield you upwards of 30 gallons of oil. That's a lot of oil. Book 2, Octavo, Chapter 3, Narwhal. That is nostril whale. Okay. Another instance of a curiously named whale, so named, I suppose, from his peculiar horn being originally mistaken for a peaked nose. The creature is some 16 feet in length, while its horn averages 5 feet, though some extend 10, and even attain to 15 feet. That's quite long. Strictly speaking, this horn is but a lengthened tusk, growing out from the jaw in a line a little depressed from the horizontal. But it is only found on the sinister side, which has an ill effect, giving its owner something analogous to the aspect of a clumsy left-handed man. What precise purpose this ivory horn or lance answers, it would be hard to say. It does not seem to be used like the blade of the swordfish or bullfish, though some sailors tell me that the narwhal deploys it for a rake in turning over the bottom of the sea for food. Charlie Coffin said it was used for an ice piercer, for the narwhal rising to the surface of the polar sea and finding it sheeted with ice, thrusts his horn up and so breaks through. But you cannot prove either of these surmises to be correct. My own opinion is that, however, this one-sided horn may really be used by the narwhal, however that may be. It would certainly be very convenient to him for a folder in reading pamphlets. The narwhal I have heard called the tusked whale, the horned whale, and the unicorn whale. He is certainly a curious example of the unicornism to be found in almost every kingdom of animated nature. From certain cloistered old authors I have gathered that the same sea unicorn's horn was in ancient days regarded as the great antidote against poison, and as such, preparations of it brought immense prices. It was also distilled to a volatile salt for fainting ladies, the same way that the horns of the male deer are manufactured into hartshorn. Originally, it was in itself accounted an object of great curiosity. Black letter tells me that Sir Martin Frobisher, in his return from that voyage, when Queen Bess did gallantly wave her jewelled hand to him from a window of Greenwich Palace, as his bold ship sailed down the Thames, when Sir Martin returned from that voyage, said Black letter, on bended knees he presented to Her Highness a prodigious long horn of the narwhal, which, for a long period after, hung to the castle at Windsor. An Irish author avers that the Earl of Leicester, on bended knees, did likewise present to Her Highness another horn, pertaining to a land beast of the unicorn nature. The narwhal was a very picturesque leopard-like look, being of a milk-white ground color, dotted with round and oblong spots of black. His oil is very superior, clear and fine, but there is little of it, and he is seldom hunted. He is mostly found in the circumpolar seas. Book 2, Octavo, Chapter 4. Killer. Of this whale, little is precisely known to the Nantucketer. Nothing at all to the professed naturalists. From what I have seen of him at a distance, I should say that he was about the bigness of a grumpus. He is very savage, a sort of Fiji fish. He sometimes takes the great folio whales by the lip and hangs there like a leech, till the mighty brute is worried to death. The killer is never hunted. I never heard what sort of oil he has. Exception might be taken to the name bestowed upon this whale, on the ground of its indistinctness. For we are all killers, on land and on sea, Bonapartes and sharks included. Book 2, Octavo, Chapter 5, Thrasher. This gentleman is famous for his tail, which he uses as a ferule in thrashing his foes. He mounts the folio whale's back, and as he swims he works his passage by flogging him, as some schoolmasters get along in the world by a similar process. Still less is known of the thrasher than of the killer. Both are outlaws, even in the lawless seas. Thus ends Book 2, Octavo, and begins Book 3, Duodecimo. Duodecimos, these include the smaller whales. 1. The Huzza porpoise. 2. The Algerine porpoise. 3. The mealy-mouthed porpoise. To those who have not chanced specially to study the subject, it may possibly seem strange that fishes not commonly exceeding 4 or 5 feet should be marshaled among whales, a word which in the popular sense always conveys an idea of hugeness. But the creatures set down above as duodecimos are infallibly whales, by the terms of my definition of what a whale is, i.e. a spouting fish with a horizontal tail. Book 3, Duodecimo, Chapter 1, Huzzah Porpoise. This is the common porpoise found all over the globe. The name is of my own bestowal, for there are more than one sort of porpoises, and something must be done to distinguish them. I call him thus because he always swims in the hilarious shoals, which upon the broad sea keep tossing themselves to heaven like caps in a 4th of July crowd. Their appearance is generally hailed with delight by the mariner. Full of fine spirits, they invariably come from the breezy billows to windward. They are the lads that always live before the wind. They are accounted a lucky omen. If you yourself can withstand 3 cheers at beholding these vivacious fish, then heaven help ye. The spirit of godly gamesomeness is not in ye. A well-fed, plump Huzzah porpoise will yield you 1 good gallon of good oil. 1 good gallon. But the fine and delicate fluid extracted from his jaws is exceedingly valuable. It is in request among jewelers and watchmakers. Sailors put it in their homes. Porpoise meat is good eating, you know. It may never have occurred to you that a porpoise spouts. Indeed, his spout is so small that it is not very readily discernible. But the next time you have a chance, watch him, and you will then see the great sperm whale himself in miniature. Book 3, Duodecimo, Chapter 2, Algerine Porpoise. A pirate. Very savage. He is only found, I think, in the Pacific. He is somewhat larger than the Huzzah porpoise, but much of the same general make. Provoke him and he will buckle to a shark. I have lowered for him many times, but never yet saw him captured. Book 3, Duodecimo, Chapter 3, Mealy-mouthed Porpoise. The largest kind of porpoise, and only found in the Pacific, so far as it is known. The only English name by which he has hitherto been designated is that of the fisher, right whale porpoise, from the circumstance that he is chiefly found in the vicinity of that folio. In shape, he differs in some degree from the Huzzah porpoise, being of a less round and jolly girth. Indeed, he is of quite a neat and gentlemanlike figure. He has no fins on his back, most other porpoises have. He has a lovely tail and sentimental Indian eyes of a hazel hue. But his mealy mouth spoils him. Though his entire back down to his side fins is of a deep sable, yet a boundary line, distinct as the mark of a ship's hull, called the bright waist. That line strikes him from stem to stern, with 2 separate colors, black above and white below. The white comprises part of his head and the whole of his mouth, which makes him look as if he had just escaped from a felonious visit to a meal bag. A most mean and mealy aspect. His oil is much like that of the common porpoise. Beyond the duodecimo, the system does not proceed, inasmuch as the porpoise is the smallest of the whales. Above, you have all the leviathans of note, but there are a rabble of uncertain, fugitive, half-fabulous whales, which, as an American whaleman, I know by reputation, but not personally. I shall enumerate them by their forecastle appellations, for possibly such a list may be valuable to future investigators, who may complete what I have here but begun. If any of the following whales shall hereafter be caught and marked, then he can readily be incorporated into the system, according to his folio, octavo, or duodecimo magnitude. The bottlenose whale, the junk whale, the pudding-headed whale, the cape whale, the leading whale, the cannon whale, the scrag whale, the coppered whale, the elephant whale, the iceberg whale, the quag whale, the blue whale, and from Icelandic, Dutch, and all English authorities, there might be quoted other lists of uncertain whales, blessed with all manner of uncouth names, but I omit them as altogether obsolete, and can hardly help suspecting them for mere sounds, full of leviathanism, but signifying nothing. Finally, it was stated at the outset that this system would not be here, and at once perfected. You cannot but plainly see that I have kept my word, but I now leave my cytological system standing thus unfinished, even as the great cathedral of Cologne was left, with the cranes still standing upon the top of the uncompleted tower. For small erections may be finished by their first architects. Grand ones, true ones, ever leave the copestone to prosperity. Cute potato, hello, welcome in. God keep me from ever completing anything. This old book is but a draft. Nay, but the draft of a draft. Oh, time, strength, cash, and patience. Alrighty, let me catch up here. When was it discovered that whales give milk to their babies? That's an interesting question. I think when they started, building submarines, I'm not sure. What word was that? So Aristotle says is historically credited with the discovery and documentation that whales, dolphins, and porpoises possess mammary glands and produce milk to suckle their young. In his work History of Animals, he correctly identified cetaceans as viviparous, giving birth to live young, and noted that they have udders and milk, and a trait they share with humans and other hair-bearing animals. Okay, I think I know the word that got banned. Initial modern assumptions. For many years, scientific understanding of whale nursing was limited to surface sightings. Researchers assumed calves seen near their mothers were nursing, though recent data suggest much of that time is actually spent simply staying close for protection. First filmed evidence, blue whales. The first footage of a blue whale calf nursing was captured as recently as April 2015. Yeah, so video footage is only a couple of years young. In the grand scheme of things, that's basically yesterday that they figured it out. Yeah, thank you for that insight, Slayer. Man, what a chapter that was. But actually quite insightful. It gives you an idea of what they knew and what they thought about whales back then. And one more thing, milk composition. Whale milk is extremely thick, with a fat content reaching 30% to 50%, giving it a consistently similar to yogurt or toothpaste. This high fat content prevents the milk from dissolving in seawater before the calf can consume it. Yeah. I think it would probably be closer to toothpaste, mainly because of that. You know, it's easier to get hold of something a little bit more solid in the water. So basically, the babies eat paste. Milk in paste form. That is interesting. I have heard of that before, but I have forgotten that it was so thick. But yeah, that's good. Thank you for that. We get to learn about whales today. Actual learning about whales. That is cool. Looks like we're getting back to the story, I think. Yes. I don't know how many chapters I'll be able to do today. My mouth is dry. And hopefully I haven't been slurring my words too much. Not too many words today. Alright, I kind of sort of already figured out what that is. The science of whales. But I'm still not sure what opine means. Opine. Cottonmouth? Yeah. Yes, opine. Or opine. Exactly written like that, Slayer. Yeah, it does feel like I have cotton in my mouth. It's the kind of cotton that you cannot take out. For if I have eaten cotton, at least I could remove it. So yeah, the Encarta will be broken out soon. But yeah, this long chapter has me a little bit tired now. To opine means to express or state an opinion about something. Ah, okay, cool. I'm gonna have to start thinking about getting me a new playlist soon. It's common on my meds. Your meds also dry out your mouth, Data? I do know that there are many medications that do that. I've experienced that too. It's not fun. Oof. I's tired, man. I's tired. Pause the music just a little bit. Oof. Alrighty, well, it looks like we still have 5 minutes before break time. Nugget! Nice, let's see what I get. Since we're on the subject of fish, we might as well fish, right? Ooh, I got a parrotfish. This is a pretty fish. Let's see. What other fish am I gonna get? Hopefully I don't get a... Hopefully I don't get like a jackpot or any of that. Nice, I got a shellfish! Data, were you here when I caught the whale earlier? Possible. No, it was right before Data came in. Ooh, scraper mouth. That is a cool looking fish. It was just before Data came in you caught that mega fish. That whale. I didn't even know that you could catch whales in this game. But I mean, you can catch a bicycle, so it shouldn't surprise me. Let's see, what else do I get? No! Not that! I got a whale shark, okay. Alright, not the big one. Okay, good stuff. Although this guy is pretty big. You've seen sharks caught? Yeah, I've seen the whale shark as well, and other sharks. I think a great white. I think there's a great white shark in this game. Not entirely sure. Olive Ridley turtle. Nice. We're not catching so much junk today. That's interesting. Watch it now. I'm gonna catch a can or a broken cup or keys or something. Nope, I got a car. Let's go. Oh yeah, mini games can be super fun. I'm actually thinking, I'm looking at getting another mini game. I do have one. And there's my what you call it, alarm for breaking time. I have a, what is it called? Oh man, jeepers, I'm struggling to get the word now. I have 3 free movies on YouTube I know about that are good. I can't remember if I posted in Discord. I don't think you did. Or maybe you did. I do remember you mentioning some movies. But yeah, feel free to post them. Hydrate. Thank you, Sardeta. Cheers, and hydrate you as well. Thanks much. And check your YouTube history. Yeah, that might be a plan. Alrighty. Okay, my phone is somewhere else. Ooh, barracuda! Alrighty, folks, it is time for us to take a break. My phone is in the kitchen, so I'm gonna have to set my clock over there. So set yourselves a 30-minute clock and get yourself something to eat, something to drink, stretch out them limbs, go for a walk. And I shall see you after the break. And remember, catch the stars. BRB, enjoy the break. Hello, everybody. Oh. Karl, let's go! Christopher, hello, welcome in. How are you? Welcome back to you too, Sedata. Did anybody get themselves something to eat and something to drink? Because I didn't get myself something to drink this time, but I did get myself something to eat. Melted cheese on bread and some leftover tuna salad. We had some delicious H2O. Nice, nice. Good stuff. H2O is good stuff. You're doing good. You're gonna help Tonic to switch to Mageia on his laptop as Mint has big kernel boot issue. It renders as unuseful even after rebuilding the internal stuff. Ah. Well, all the best in that endeavor. Let's see how badly I fall over my own tongue in this, because that last chapter really did a number on me. How many pages until the end of the book? Still that much. Does that count as a number? Let's see. Just under 2 fingers. Yeah, it's a big book. And chapter 32 was... I won't say it's the biggest chapter, I think. Well, so far it's the biggest chapter that I've read. And it was, quite annoying, actually. It was insightful and informative, but it's very heavy. Very heavy. No, this is my first time reading it. That's why I'm struggling so much. The Old English and the long-winded way of saying things in this story is a lot of work. That's all I'll say. It's a lot of work. Yeah. I should probably put in first read-through in the title. No. if it's gonna be as long-winded as this, and if they use the old Afrikaans like they use the old English in this book, no. I'm all for learning new words and stuff, but I feel there's so much filler in the story. Like, okay, this was a good chapter. I'm not gonna lie. Cytology, chapter 32, Cytology was a good one. Because they actually spoke about whales and classifications and stuff like that, which is fantastic. But it doesn't help. To me, it feels like filler. Right? There was no, like, lead up to it. There was no lead up that we were going to start talking about science. Because the previous one, we were talking about, you know, people. And the last thing it says is something about Ahab. You know, Captain Ahab, and I think it was talking about... Oh yes, this was the dream that, what's his face had? Stubb. I think it was Stubb. So, we have a chapter speaking of a dream that he had of the captain, and then we go straight into science talk. So abrupt, right? No lead up to it, no... and this was quite a number of pages. Like, you can see the gold on there, right? So page 141 to page 153. Science stuff. And now we're going back to the officers. Like what? We're talking about the people on the ship and the people that works on it, and then we're talking about dreams that they have of each other, and then science! Deep, heavy science, and then, oh, let's carry on with the people on the ship. It's a little annoying. Is Ahab related to Moab and Clenab? Your guess is as good as mine. You just made up the names. Imaginary relatives. I figured as much. It's fun to play with names. So yeah, it feels like filler. You know, just because. I don't know. It would be nice if they give you a little bit of a heads up. Okay, gonna talk about fish in the next episode in some or other long-winded way. Even the long-winded way I would have appreciated. But, yeah. But I am thankful that there is at least one chapter speaking about whales. Their names and classifications and descriptions and so on. But Cheaper's not in the middle of stuff. Long-winded breathes heavily. It's you know, I had an uncle, and he had like really long prayer times. And he loved it. He loved doing the prayer times. So, and with every family gathering that we had, he would like do his thing. And you could tell he was getting ready, like filling up those lungs, you know? And then you knew, we're gonna be here a while. He would smelt it, dealt it. So yeah, we loved him to bits, but yeah, sometimes those prayer times where some of them could have been shorter. Let's just say that. He was a sweet man though. So yeah, our storyteller in this book is reminding me a lot of my uncle. I don't even think he was a direct uncle. He was just one of the grown-ups in the family. I have to take my asthma medication now, speaking of being long-winded. I'm glad I could remind you of your medication. Yeah. I'm not ready to continue reading, by the way. But I want to get to the point where our adventure is getting us, you know, into danger, getting us face to face with Moby Dick. You know, I want to get there. I don't want to hear more philosophies. As great as the information of whales are, I don't want to go into that either. I want to get to the story. I want to get to where the action is. Can I read for you by typing here in chat? I will still have to read it out loud. How about I just do this, and you guys can just read for yourselves. Jen, hello, welcome back. Dang it, yeah. No. I can't even say text-to-speech because text-to-speech is just so annoying because they don't know how to say these old words right and you just get a garbled mess. Alrighty. Back to concerning ourselves with the officers of the whalecraft. Let us continue then, shall we? You made me yawn too. And I tried not to, Jen. I even covered my mouth. That went right across the ocean. It's like, hey Jen, catch this! And you're on the other side. And it hits you in the face anyway. What, the yawn right in the face? Yes. How it should be. I'm only joking. Alrighty. I needed that laugh. Alrighty. I think I might be slightly more ready. Chapter 33. The Specksinder. Don't know what the heck that is. I hope that's a name of something. Concerning the officers of the whalecraft, this seems as good a place as any to set down a little domestic peculiarity on shipboard, arising from the existence of the harpooner class of officers. A class unknown, of course, in any other marine than the whale fleet. This is true. I think. At least back in those days. Nowadays, you get harpooneers for many other things, not just whales. The large importance attached to the harpooneer's vocation is evinced by the fact that originally in the old Dutch fishery, 2 centuries and more ago, the command of a whale ship was not wholly lodged in the person now called the captain, but was divided between him and an officer called the Specksinder. Oh, it is indeed a name. Good to know. Literally, this word means fat cutter. Usage, however, in time made it equivalent to chief harpooner. In those days, the captain's authority was restricted to the navigation and general management of the vessel, while over the whale hunting department and its concerns, the Specksinder, or chief harpooner, reigned supreme. Okay, Specksinder. In Afrikaans, fat as speck. So this is that description actually kind of makes sense. And Seinder, not sure what language that is, but it's not far off from snij, snijder. So, snijer. Snij is cut. S-N-Y. Afrikaans word for cut. Instead of S-Y-N. So, it's interesting to see how they swap around the letters. Okay. While over whale hunting department and all its concerns, the Specksinder, or chief harpooner, reigned supreme. In the British Greenland fishery, under the corrupted title of Specksioneer, this old Dutch... Oh, it's Dutch. Never mind. That explains why the word is a little different. This old Dutch official is still retained, but his former dignity is sadly abridged. At present he ranks simply as senior harpooner, and as such is but one of the captain's more inferior subalterns. Nevertheless, as upon the good conduct of the harpooneers, the success of a whaling voyage largely depends, and since in the American fishery he is not only an important officer on the boat, but under certain circumstances, night watches on a whaling ground, the command of the ship's deck is also his. Therefore the grand political maxim of the sea demands that he should nominally live apart from the men before the mast, and he be in some way distinguished as their professional superior, though always, by them, familiarly regarded as their social equal. Now, the grand distinction between officer and man at sea is this. These long-winded explanations. Alright. The first lives aft, the last forward, Hence, in whale ships and merchantmen alike, the mates have their quarters with the captain. And so too in most of the American whalers, the harpooneers are lodged in the after part of the ship. That is to say, they take their meals in the captain's cabin and sleep in a place indirectly communicating with it. Though the long period of a southern whaling voyage, by far the longest of all voyages now or ever made by man, the peculiar perils of it, and the community of interest prevailing among a company, all of whom, high or low, depend for their profits, not upon fixed wages, but upon their common luck, together with their common vigilance, intrepidity, and hard work. Though all these things do in some cases tend to beget a less rigorous discipline than in merchantmen generally, yet never mind how much like an old Mesopotamian family these whalemen may, in some primitive instances, live together. For all that, the punctilious externals, at least of the quarterdeck, are seldom materially relaxed, and in no instance done away. Punctilious? I'm gonna write that down. That would be word 3 for today. Go. Indeed, many are the Nantucket ships in which you will see the skipper parading his quarterdeck with an elated grandeur not surpassed in any military navy, nay, extorting almost as much outward homage as if he wore the imperial purple and not the shabbiest of pilot cloth. And though of all men the moody captain of the Pequod was the least given to that sort of shallowest assumption, and though the only homage he ever exacted was implicit, instantaneous obedience, though he required no man to remove the shoes from his feet ere stepping upon the quarter-deck, and though there were times when, owing to particular circumstances connected with events hereafter to be detailed, he addressed them in unusual terms, whether of condescension, whether of condescension or in terrorem, or otherwise. Yet even Captain Ahab was by no means unobservant of the paramount forms and usages of the sea. Nor perhaps will it fail to be eventually perceived that behind those forms of usages, as it were, he sometimes masked himself, incidentally making use of them for other and more private ends than they were legitimately intended to observe. That certain sultanism of his brain, which had otherwise in a good degree remained unmanifested, through those forms, that same sultanism became incarnate in an irresistible dictatorship. So he runs the ship with an iron fist. If I understand that correctly, because could have just said that if that is what he meant. Alrighty, let us continue then. For be a man's intellectual superiority what it will, It can never assume the practical, available supremacy over other men, without the aid of some sort of external arts and entrenchments, always in themselves more or less paltry and base. This it is that forever keeps God's true princes of the empire from the world's hustings, and leaves the highest honors that this air can give to those men who become famous more through their infinite inferiority to the choice hidden handful of the divine inert, than through their undoubted superiority over the dead level of the mass. Such large virtue lurks in these small things when extreme political superstitions infest them, that in some royal instances, even to idiot imbecility, they have impartant potency. But when, as in the case of Nicholas the Tsar, the ringed crown of geographical empire encircles an imperial brain, then the plebeian herds crouch abase before the tremendous centralization. Nor will the tragic dramatist who would depict mortal indomitableness in its fullest sweep and direct swing ever forget a hint, incidentally so important in his art as the one now alluded to. Okay, what are you alluding to? You already made me lose the plot. But Ahab, my captain, still moves before me in all his Nantucket grimness and shagginess. And in this episode touching emperors and kings, I must not conceal that I have only to do with a poor old whale hunter like him, and therefore all outward majestical trappings and housings are denied me. O Ahab, what shall be grand in thee? It must needs be plucked at from the skies and dived for in the deep, and featured in the unbodied air. Hydrate. All this water is doing is dry my mouth out even more. I'm gonna have to go get me something else to drink. So I'm gonna go and get something real quick. Alrighty, folks. I'll be quick. I'm just gonna go get me something else to drink so my mouth don't feel so dry. BRB. Here we go, he's back. And armed with the nectar of Karl. Okay. Right. I'm seeing some, it looks like conversation writing here. So we're getting into the story again. I hope. Okay. Chapter 34. The cabin table. The cabin table. Just wanna do something here real quick. Alrighty, the cabin table. It is noon, and Doughboy, the steward, thrusting his pale loaf-of-bread face from the cabin scuttle, announces dinner to his lord and master, who, sitting in the lee quarterboat, has just been taking an observation of the sun, and is now mutely reckoning the latitude on the smooth medallion-shaped tablet, reserved for that daily purpose of the upper part of his ivory leg. From the complete inattention to the tidings, you would think that moody Ahab had not heard his menial, but presently, catching hold of the mizzen shrouds, he swings himself to the deck, and in an even unexhilarated voice saying, "Dinner, Mr. Starbuck," disappears into the cabin. And that didn't make sense to me at all. Moving on. When the last echo of his sultan's step had died away, and Starbuck, the first emir, has every reason to suppose that he is seated, then Starbuck rouses from his quietude, takes a few turns along the planks, and after a grave peep into the binnacle, says, with some touch of pleasantness, "Dinner, Mr. Stump," and descends the scuttle. The second emir lounges about the rigging a while, and then slightly shaking the main brace, to see whether it will be all right with the important rope. He likewise takes up the old burden, and with a rapid "Dinner, Mr. Flask," follows after his predecessors. But the third emir, now seeing himself all alone on the quarterdeck, seems to feel relieved from some curious restraint. For, tipping all sorts of knowing winks in all sorts of directions and kicking off his shoes, he strikes into a sharp but noiseless squall of a hornpipe right over the Grand Turk's head, and then, by a dexterous sleight, pitching his cap up into the mizzen top for a shelf, he goes down rollicking so far at least as he remains visible from the deck, reversing all other processions by bringing up the rear with music. But ere stepping into the cabin doorway below, he pauses. Okay, he pauses, shifts a new face altogether, and then, independent, hilarious little Flask enters King Ahab's presence in the character of abjectus, or the slave. It is not the least among the strange things bred by the intense artificialness of sea usages, that while in the open air of the deck some officers will, upon provocation, bear themselves boldly and defiantly enough towards their commander, yet 10 to 1 let those very officers the next moment go down to their customary dinner in that same commander's cabin, and straightway their inoffensive, not to say deprecatory and humble air towards them as he sits at the head of the table. This is marvelous, sometimes most comical. Wherefore this difference? A problem? Perhaps not. To have been Belshazzar, king of Babylon, and to have been Belshazzar not haughtily but courteously, therein certainly must have been some touch of mundane grandeur. But he who in the rightly regal and intelligent spirit presides over his own private dinner table of invited guests, that man's unchallenged power and dominion of individual influence for the time, that man's royalty of state transcends Belshazzar's, for Belshazzar was not the greatest. We're going into the past again. Anyway. Who has but once dined his friends, has tasted what it is to be Caesar. It is a witchery of social czarship, which there is no withstanding. Now, if to this consideration you superadd the official supremacy of a shipmaster, then by inference you will derive the cause of that peculiarity of sea life just mentioned. Over his ivory inlaid table, Ahab presided like a mute, maned sea lion on the white coral beach, surrounded by his warlike but still deferential cubs. In his own proper turn, each officer waited to be served. They were as little children before Ahab, and yet in Ahab there seemed not to lurk the smallest social arrogance. With one mind, their intent eyes all fastened upon the old man's knife, as he carved the chief dish before him. I do not suppose that for the world they would have profaned that moment with the slightest observation, even upon so neutral a topic as the weather. No. And when reaching out, his knife and fork, between which the slice of beef was locked, Ahab thereby motioned Starbuck's plate towards him. The mate received his meat, as though receiving alms, and cut it tenderly, and a little started if, perchance, the knife grazed against the plate, and chewed it noisily, and swallowed it, not without circumspection, for like the coronation banquet at Frankfurt, where the German emperor profoundly dines with the 7 imperial electors, so these cabin meals were somehow solemn meals, eaten in awful silence, and yet at table old Ahab forbade not conversation, only he himself was dumb. What a relief it was to choking Stubb, when a rat made a sudden racket in the whole billet. And poor little Flask, he was the youngest son, and little boy of this weary family party. His were the shin bones of the saline beef. His would have been the drumsticks. For Flask to have been presumed to help himself, this must have seemed to him tantamount to larceny in the first degree. Had he helped himself at the table, doubtless, nevermore would have been able to hold his head up in this honest world. Nevertheless, strange to say, Ahab never forbade him. And had Flask helped him, the chances were Ahab had never so much as noticed it. Least of all did Flask presume to help himself to butter. Whether he thought the owners of the ship denied it to him on account of his clotting his clear, sunny complexion, or whether he deemed that, on so long a voyage in such marketless water, butter was at a premium, and therefore was not for him. A subaltern. However, it was Flask, alas, was a butterless man. Another thing, Flask was the last person down at the dinner, and Flask is the first man up. Consider, for hereby Flask's dinner was boldly jammed in point of time. Starbuck and Stubb both had the start of him, and yet they also have the privilege of lounging in the rear. If Stubb even, who is but a peg higher than Flask, happens to have but a small appetite, and soon shows symptoms of concluding his repast, then Flask must bestir himself, and he will not get more than 3 mouthfuls that day. For it is against holy usage for Stubb to precede Flask to the deck. Therefore it was that Flask once admitted in private that ever since he had arisen to the dignity of an officer, from that moment he had never known what it was to be otherwise than hungry, more or less. Poor guy. His diet isn't very good. For what he ate did not so much relieve his hunger as keep it immortal in him. Peace and satisfaction, thought Flask, have forever departed from my stomach. I am an officer, but how I wish I could fish a bit of old-fashioned beef in the forecastle, as I used to when I was before the mast. There's the fruit of promotion now. There's the vanity of glory. There's the insanity of life. Besides, if it were so that any mere sailor of the Pequod had a grudge against Flask in Flask's official capacity, all that sailor had to do in order to obtain ample vengeance was to go aft at dinner time. Yes, just going aft at dinner time. Suppose is more than enough revenge. And get a peep at Flask through the cabin skylight, sitting silly and dumbfoundered before awful Ahab. Now Ahab and his 3 mates formed what may be called the first table in the Pequod's cabin. After their departure, taking place in inverted order to their arrival, the canvas cloth was cleared, or rather was restored to some hurried order by the pallid steward. And then the 3 harpooneers were bidden to the feast, they being its residuary legatees. Residuary legatees. What the heck is a legatees? They made a sort of temporary servants' hall of the high and mighty cabin, in strange contrast to the hardly tolerable constraint and nameless, invisible domineerings of the captain's table, was the entire carefree license and ease. the almost frantic democracy of those inferior fellows, the harpooneers. While their masters, the mates, seemed afraid of the sound of the hinges of their own jaws, the harpooneers chewed their food with such a relish that there was a report to it. They dined like lords, they filled their bellies like Indian ships, all day loading with spices. Such portentous appetites had Pequod, Pequig, and Tashtego, that to fill out the vacancies made by the previous repast, often the pale doughboy was fain to bring on a great baron of salt junk, seemingly quarried out of the solid ox. And if he were not lively about it, if he did not go with a nimble hop, skip, and a jump, then Tashtego had an ungentlemanly way of accelerating him by darting a fort at his back, harpoon-wise. And once Daggoo, seized with a sudden humor, assisted Doughboy's memory by snatching him up bodily and thrusting his head into a great empty wooden trencher, while Tashtego, knife in hand, began laying out the circle preliminary to scalping him. He was naturally a very nervous, shuddering sort of little fellow, this bread-faced steward, the progeny of a bankrupt banker and a hospital nurse. And what with the standing spectacle of the black, terrific Ahab, and the periodical, tumultuous visitations of these three savages, Doughboy's whole life was one continual lip-quiver. Commonly, after seeing the harpooneers furnished with all things they demanded, he would escape from their clutches into his little pantry adjoining, and fearfully peep out at them through the blinds of its door, till all was over. They don't treat the poor guy all that nicely, do they? I mean, he brings them their food, and they treat him this way? That's not very nice. Not very nice at all. It was a sight to see Queequeg, seated over against Tashtego, opposing his filed teeth to the Indians, crosswise to them, Daggoo seated on the floor. For a bench would have brought his hearse-plumed head to the low carlines, at every motion of his colossal limbs making the low cabin framework to shake, as when an African elephant goes passenger in a ship. But for all this, the great Negro was wonderfully as abstemious. What the heck is that word? Abstemious. We're gonna find that one later. Not to say dainty. It seemed hardly possible that by such comparatively small mouthfuls he could keep up the vitality diffused through so broad, baronial, and superb a person. But doubtless this noble savage fed strong and drank deep of the abounding element of air, and through his dilated nostrils snuffed in the sublime life of the worlds. Not by beef or by bread are giants made or nourished. But Queequeg, he had a mortal, barbaric smack of the lip in eating, an ugly sound enough, so much so that the trembling doughboy almost looked to see whether any marks of teeth lurked on his own lean arms. And when he would hear Tashtigo singing out for him to produce himself, that his bones might be picked, the simple-witted steward all but shattered the crockery hanging around him in the pantry by his sudden fits of the palsy. Nor did the whetstone which the harpooneers carried in their pockets for their lances and other weapons, and with which whetstones at dinner they would ostentatiously sharpen their knives, that grating sound did not at all tend to tranquilize poor Doughboy. How could he forget that in his island days, Queequeg, for one, must certainly have been guilty of some murderous convivial indiscretion? Alas, Doughboy! Hard fares the white waiter who waits upon cannibals. Not a napkin should he carry on his arm, but a buckler. In good time, though, to his great delight, the 3 salt sea warriors would rise and depart. To his credulous fable-mongering ears, all their martial bones jingling in them at every step, like Moorish scimitars in scabbards. But though these barbarians dined in the cabin, and nominally lived there, still, being anything but sedentary in their habits, they were scarcely ever in it except at mealtimes, and just before sleep time, when they passed through it to their own peculiar quarters. In this one matter, Ahab seemed no exception to most American whale captains, who, as a set, rather incline to the opinion that by rights their ship's cabin belonged to them. And that it is by courtesy alone that anybody else is at any time permitted there. So that in real truth the mates and harpooneers of the Pequod might more properly be said to have lived out of the cabin than in it. For when they did enter it, it was something as a street door enters a house, turning inwards for a moment, only to be turned out the next, and as a permanent thing, residing in the open air. Nor did they lose much hereby. In the cabin was no companionship. Socially, Ahab was inaccessible. Though nominally included in the census of Christendom, he was still an alien to it. He lived in the world as the last of the grizzly bears lived in settled Missouri. And as when spring and summer had departed, that wild Logan of the woods buried himself in the hollow of a tree, lived out the winter there, sucking his own paws, so in his inclement, howling old age, Ahab's soul, shut up in the cave trunk of his body, there fed upon the sullen pause of its gloom. Right, so dinner time is hell for Doughboy. Poor guy. I'm glad I don't have his job. Right. Let's see. Okay, so looks like we're getting a little bit more into where they actually talk to each other. That's great. We're getting into the story part. This is This is gonna start getting interesting soon. I can feel it in my bones. The masthead. So how many pages is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. What time do we have left? I think I might be able to finish this one off. And then we end on a good chapter to continue. Whew. Need a little bit of a break after that. Still. Let's see, what do I get? Ooh! 2 exclamation marks. I got an old PC, let's go! I want to get me an old PC. Okay. One last push. I suppose. And then next week we'll get some dialogue. And not just a few sentences. We'll get a whole bunch of them. Because this guy has way too much time to explain every little detail about every little thing. It's great though. But I want people, and speaking, and action, and fish fighting, and water, and boats breaking. Stuff like that. Alright, so 6 pages. Alright, 6 and almost 7. Let's go. Chapter 35. The masthead. It was during the more pleasant weather that in due rotation with the other seamen my first masthead came around. In most American whalemen, the mastheads are manned almost simultaneously with the vessels leaving her port, even though she may have 15,000 miles and more to sail ere reaching her proper cruising ground. And if after a 3, 4, or 5 years' voyage she is drawing nigh home with anything empty in her, say an empty vial, even then her mastheads are kept manned to the last. And not till her sky-sailed poles sail in among the spires of the port does she altogether relinquish the hope of capturing one whale more. Now, as the business of standing mastheads, ashore or afloat, is a very ancient and interesting one, let us in some measure expatiate it here. Do we have to? I'm just joking. Okay, I take it that the earliest standards of mastheads were the old Egyptians, because in all my researches I found none prior to them. Okay, I'm just gonna write down mastheads. Because I don't know what that is. I have an idea, but I'm not quite sure what a masthead is. Or its function. Okay. Old Egyptians, because in all my researches I found none prior to them. For though their progenitors, the builders of Babel, must doubtless by their tower have intended to rear the loftiest masthead in all Asia or Africa either. Yet here the final truck was put to it. Oh, our music is finished. We must get some more. Let's get some music first. Alrighty. No. Try that one. Okay, where was I? Yet ere the final truck was put to it, as the great stone mast of theirs may be said to have gone by the board in the dread gale of God's wrath, therefore we cannot give those Babel builders priority over the Egyptians, and that the Egyptians were a nation of masthead standers, as an assertion based upon the general belief among archaeologists that the first pyramids were founded for astronomical purposes, a theory singularly supported by the peculiar star-like formation of all four sides of these edifices, whereby with prodigious long upliftings of their legs those old astronomers were wont to mount to the apex and sing out for new stars, even as the lookouts of a modern ship sing out for a sail, or a whale just bearing in sight. In Saint Stylites, the famous Christian hermit of all times, who built him a lofty stone pillar in the desert, and spent the whole latter portion of his life on its summit, hoisting his food from the ground with a tackle, in him we have a remarkable instance of a dauntless stander of mastheads, who was not to be driven from his place by fogs or frosts, rain, hail, or sleet, but valiantly facing everything out to the last, literally died at his post. Wow. Of modern standards of mastheads, we have but a lifeless set, mere stone, iron, and bronze men, who, though well capable of facing out a stiff gale, are still entirely incompetent to the business of singing out upon discovering any strange sight. There is Napoleon, who upon the top of the column of Vendôme stands with arms folded, some 150 feet in the air, careless. Now, who rules the decks below? Whether Louis Philippe, Louis Blanc, or Louis the Devil? Great Washington, too, stands high aloft on his towering mainmast in Baltimore, and like one of Hercules' pillars, his column marks that point of human grandeur beyond which few mortals will go. Admiral Nelson, also as a capstan of gunmetal, stands his masthead in Trafalgar Square. And even when most obscured by that London smoke, token is yet given to a hidden hero is there. For where there is smoke must be fire. But neither great Washington, nor Napoleon, nor Nelson will answer a single hail from below, however madly invoked to befriend by their counsels the distracted decks upon which they gaze. However, it may be surmised that their spirits penetrate through the thick haze of the future, and descry what shoals and what rocks must be shunned. It may seem unwarrantable to couple in any respect the masthead standards of the land with those of the sea, but that in truth it is not so. It is plainly evinced by an item for which Obed Macy, the sole historian of Nantucket, stands accountable. The worthy Obed tells us that in the early times of the whale fishery, ere ships were regularly launched in pursuit of the game, the people of that island erected lofty spars along the seacoast, to which the lookouts ascended by means of nailed cleats, something as fowls go upstairs in a henhouse. A few years ago, this same plan was adopted by the bay whalemen of New Zealand, who, upon descrying the game, gave notice that the ready-manned boats nigh the beach. But this custom has now become obsolete. Turn we then to the one proper masthead, that of a whale ship at sea. The three mastheads are kept manned from sunrise to sunset. The seamen taking their regular turns, as at the helm, and relieving each other every 2 hours, in the serene weather of the tropics, it is exceedingly pleasant the masthead. Nay, to a dreamy, meditative man it is delightful. There you stand, 100 feet above the silent decks, striding along the deep, as if the masts were gigantic stilts, while beneath you and between your legs, as it were, swim the hugest monsters of the sea, even as ships once sailed between the boots of the famous Colossus at Old Rhodes. There you stand, lost in the infinite series of the sea, with nothing ruffled but the waves. The tranced ship indolently rolls. The drowsy trade winds blow. Everything resolves you into languor. For the most part, in this tropic whaling life, sublime uneventfulness infests you. You hear no news, read no gazettes, extras with startling accounts of commonplaces never delude you into unnecessary excitements. You hear of no domestic afflictions, bankrupt securities, fall of stocks, are never troubled with the thought of what you shall have for dinner. For all your meals for 3 years and more are snugly stowed in casks, and your bill of fare is immutable. In one of these southern whalesmen, on a long 3 or 4 years' voyage, as often happens, the sum of the various hours you spend at the masthead would amount to several entire months, and it is much to be deplored that the place to which you devote so considerable a portion of the whole term of your natural life should be so sadly destitute of anything approaching to a cozy inhabitiveness, or adapted to breed a comfortable localness of feeling, such as pertains to a bed, a hammock, a hearse, a sentry box, a pulpit, a couch, or any other of those small and snug contrivances in which men temporarily isolate themselves. Your most usual point of perch is the head of the gallant mast, where you stand upon two thin parallel sticks, almost peculiar to whalemen, called the sea-gallant cross-trees. Here, tossed about by the sea, the beginner feels about as cozy as he would standing on a bull's horns. To be sure, in cold weather you may carry your house aloft with you, in the shape of a watch-coat. But properly speaking, the thickest watch-coat is no more of a house than the unclad body. For as the soul is glued inside of its fleshy tabernacle, and cannot freely move about in it, nor even move out of it, without running great risk of perishing, like an ignorant pilgrim crossing the snowy Alps in winter. So a watchcoat is not so much of a house as it is a mere envelope, or additional skin encasing you. You cannot put a shelf or chest of drawers in your body, and no more can you make a convenience closet in your watchcoat. It's true, it's just too small. Concerning all this, it is much to be deplored that the mastheads of a southern whale ship are improvided with those inviolable little tents, or pulpits called crow's nests, in which the lookouts of a Greenland whaler are protected from the inclement weather of the frozen seas. In the fireside narrative of Captain Sleet, entitled A Voyage Among the Icebergs, in quest of the Greenland whale, and incidentally for the rediscovery of the lost Icelandic colonies of old Greenland, in this admirable volume, all standards of mastheads are furnished with a charmingly circumstantial account of the then recently invented crow's nest of the Glacier, which was the name of Captain Sleet's good craft. He called it the Sleet's Crow's Nest, in honor of himself, he being the original inventor and patentee, and free from all ridiculous false delicacy, and holding that if we call our own children after our own names, we fathers being the original inventors and patentees, so likewise should we denominate after ourselves any other apparatus we may beget. In shape, the Sleet's crow's nest is something like a large tierce or pipe. It is open above, however, where it is furnished with a movable side screen to keep the windward of your head in a hard gale. Being fixed on the summit of the mast, you ascend into it through a little trap hatch in the bottom. On the after side, or side next the stern of the ship, is a comfortable seat, with a locker underneath for umbrellas, comforters, and coats. In front is a leather rack in which to keep your speaking trumpet, pipe, telescope, and other nautical conveniences. Hey, that seems quite decked up. When Captain Sleet in person stood his masthead in his crow's nest of his, he tells us that he always had a rifle with him, also fixed in the rack, together with a powder flask and shot for the purpose of popping off the stray narwhals, or vagrant sea unicorns infesting those waters, for you cannot successfully shoot at them from the deck owing to the resistance of the water, but to shoot down upon them is a very different thing. Now it was plainly a labor of love for Captain Sleet to describe, as he does, all the little detailed conveniences of his crow's nest. But though he so enlarges upon many of these, and though he treats us to a very scientific account of his experiments in this crow's nest, with a small compass he kept there for the purpose of counteracting the errors resulting from what is called the local attraction of all binanical magnets, an error ascribable to the horizontal vicinity of the iron in the ship's planks, and in the Glacier's case, perhaps, to there having been so many broken down blacksmiths among her crew. I say that though the captain is very discreet and scientific here, yet, for all his learned binanical deviations, azimuth compass observations, and approximate errors, he knows very well, Captain Sleet, that he was not so much immersed in those profound magnetic meditations as to fail being attracted occasionally towards that well-replenished little case bottle, so nicely tucked in one side of his crow's nest, within easy reach of his hand. Though, upon the whole, I greatly admire and even love the brave, the honest, and learned captain, yet I take it very ill of him that he should so utterly ignore that case bottle, seeing what a faithful friend and comforter it must have been, while with mittened fingers and hooded head he was studying the mathematics aloft there in that third bird's nest within 3 or 4 perches of the pole. But if we southern whale fishers are not also snugly housed aloft as Captain Sleet and his Greenland men were, yet that disadvantage is greatly counterbalanced by the widely contrasting serenity of those seductive seas in which we south fishers mostly float. For one, I used to lounge up the rigging very leisurely, resting on the top to have a chat with Queequeg, or anyone else off duty whom I might find there, then descending a little way further and throwing a lazy leg over the topsail yard, take a preliminary view of the watery pastures, and so at last mount to my ultimate destination. Let me make a clean breast of it here, and frankly admit that I kept but sorry guard. With the problem of the universe revolving in me, how could I, being left completely to myself at such a thought-engendering altitude, how could I but lightly hold my obligations to observe all whale ships' standing orders, keep your weather eye open, and sing out every time? And let me in this place movingly admonish you, ye ship owners of Nantucket, beware of enlisting in your vigilant fisheries any lad with lean brow and hollow eye, given to unseasonable meditativeness, and who offers the ship with the feeden instead of bowditch in his head. Beware of such a one, I say. Your whales must be seen before they be killed, and this sunken-eye young platonist will tow you 10 wakes around the world and never make you 1 pint of sperm the richer. Nor are these monitions at all unneeded, for nowadays the whale fishery furnishes an asylum for many romantic, melancholy, and absent-minded young men, disgusted with the cracking care of earth, and seeking sentiment in tar and blubber. Oh, carking care. Childe Harold not unfrequently perches himself upon the masthead of some luckless, disappointed whale ship, and in moody phrase ejaculates, "Roll on, thou deep and dark blue ocean, roll! 10,000 blubber hunters sweep over thee in vain." Very often do the captains of such ships take those absent-minded young philosophers to task, upbraiding them with not feeling sufficient interest in the voyage, half hinting that they are so hopelessly lost to all honorable ambition as that in their secret souls they would rather not see whales than otherwise. But all in vain. Those young Platonists have a notion that their vision is imperfect. They are short-sighted. What use, then, to strain the visual nerve? They have left their opera glasses at home. "Why, thou monkey," said a harpooner to one of these lads, "we've been cruising now hard upon 3 years, and thou hast not raised a whale yet. Whales are scarce as hen's teeth whenever thou art up here." Perhaps they were, or perhaps there might have been shoals of them in the far horizon, but lulled into such an opium-like listlessness of vacant, unconscious reverie is this absent-minded youth by the blending cadence of waves with thoughts, that at last he loses his identity, takes the mystic ocean at his feet for the visible image of the deep, blue, bottomless soul, pervading mankind and nature, and every strange, half-seen, gliding, beautiful thing that eludes him, every dimly discovered uprising fin of some undiscernible form, seems to him the embodiment of those elusive thoughts that only people the soul by continually flitting through it. In this enchanted mood thy spirit ebbs away to whence it came, becomes diffused through time and space, like Cranmer's sprinkled pantheistic ashes, forming at last a part of every shore the round globe over. There is no life in thee now, except that rocking life imparted by a gentle rolling ship, by her borrowed from the sea, by the sea, from the inscrutable tides of God. But while this sleep, this dream is on ye, move your foot or hand an inch, slip your hold at all, and your identity comes back in horror. Over Descartian fortresses you hover, and perhaps at midday in the fairest weather, with one half-throttle shriek, you drop through that transparent air into the summer sea, no more to rise forever. Heed it well, you pantheists. Right, so there we go. We managed to get to chapter 36, which we will continue reading next week. There we go. Oh my goodness. Another big chapter about something that, well, I suppose it's maybe important to the story, but another long-winded explanation of something on the ship. But at least this one wasn't as annoying as that first chapter we read earlier. This was actually based on the ship itself, which is good. Well, there we have it. We only have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 words today. And we already know 2 of them, but we'll look for them in the dictionary anyway. Ah! Did you miss it? No, wait, she caught it! She caught the star! Let's go! Nice, nice, nice. Very, very nice indeed. GG's, Jen, GG's! Alrighty, let us move this book. It's heavy. Alright. You know, cetology already is the science or study of whales, but we shall look it up anyway. Because I've written it down. Yes, I know it's time to go, but first we must find our words. Ah, found it quite quickly. Cetology. A branch of zoology concerned with the study of whales, dolphins, and related mammals. Mid-19th century, coined from Latin cetus, whale, plus ology. Let's write down study of whale. Oh, and here's abestemios or whatever. Whoops. So let me find that one. Go all the way back to A. Let's... I found it. Have to bring it all the way this way. Go. Abstemious. Abstemious. Not indulging in or involving excessive eating or drinking. Oh. Nice. Interesting. Let's say not indulging in overeating. Nice. Alright, let's see if legatees is a word. Oh, found it pretty quickly actually, which is interesting. There it is. Legatee. Somebody who inherits a bequest under the terms of a will. So, a will inheritor? I'm not quite sure what that means. It's, yeah, I'm still not quite sure. Is it somebody that's inheriting something? Like receiving from a will? Or is it somebody that's going to read the will? Or what? I don't know. I'm just gonna write it down though. But if anybody knows, please enlighten me. If I'm even close to the right tree. Northern Star? What about the Northern Star? Oh, anyway, I wrote it down even though I'm not entirely sure what it means. Masthead. Let's see if it has it in here. It has must. Doesn't have anything about mastheads though. Oh well, I kind of expected that. Alright, Keen. I know, Slayer already said, but let's see what Encarta also says. Ah, just like he said. Opine. Opines, opining, opined. Let's get you guys to see that. There it is. To put forth an opinion. Just like he said. Nice, and then the last word. Punctilious. Ooh. Found it. Punctilious. Careful about correct behavior. Very careful about the conventions of correct behavior and etiquette. A courteous, punctilious manner. Fastidious. Showing great care in small details. A punctilious execution of a complex design. Mid-17th century from France, pointilleux, from pointeau, small point. Nice. So etiquette. I would say proper etiquette. The other way I want to say this. Care about details. And that is all of the words. We just couldn't find that one. But I expected that, so I'll just Google it, I guess. But there we go. All of our words have been found. Yay! Nice. Very, very nice. And now I am properly tired after after those long chapters. But it did get better. Although I must apologize for all my complaining. So, I apologize for all my complaining. No worries at all. Thanks, Jen. Okay, let us find somebody to raid. Shall we raid Sir Oceanus again? Nah, I'm just joking. We can choose between Hightail and Hightail, between Hightail and Pokemon Pokopia. So which one are we gonna go for? Let's go to the chat. To the chat screen. Oh, now I can bring my keyboard back too. Alrighty, which one? Hightail or Pokemon Pokopia? That's such a tongue twister. I've had enough of tongue twisters today. What do we feel like going for today?
What happens when they pick it up?
Maybe in particular, like I played Helldivers 2 with Prince Oceanus and whatnot.
To go back to the ocean area.
Let me check something.
It picks up their streams, okay. Interesting. So that is just nonsense. Thank you for making that poll. Thank you, Data. Which one shall we go for, ladies and gentlemen? There is a poll. Who are we going to raid? Pokemon or Hytale? Please do vote. I think everybody's asleep, Data. It would seem to be the case. Aw, sad Data. Well, we shall wait until the poll time is over, and nobody voted. I'm just gonna go for the default, which is Sir Charles Q. Banks. Since I can't choose anyway. Nice. Hydrate. I must say, this milk has helped me quite a bit. Otherwise, I would be even more tired. Nobody wants to vote? Everybody is too snuggly? Not into coffee or a shot of milk. Whatever you like. Just hydrate with whatever you like. Doesn't have to be milk. Which channel? Yeah. No votes. They both lost. Oh. The poor poll. Didn't get any love today. Everybody's asleep. It's okay. We love our sleepers here. Aw, sad Data. It's okay, Data. Maybe next time we'll get a vote or two. Here, have a hug. Alrighty, we are going to go...
2 hours later.
2 hours later. Alrighty, we are going to go with the default. Sir Charles Q. Banks. There is his shouty for those who want to check him out and was left behind by Twitch. Because we know they don't always take everybody along for our raid ride. And here is the raid message. Give that a sneaky little copy. And I shall get the raid command ready. There we go. Thank you everybody for joining me for today's reading of Moby Dick. I appreciate you and all the time you spend with me. Thank you for the chats in between, and thank you for helping me find meaning of certain words. You guys are awesome, and I forgot to snooze the ad break. No, never mind. I managed to snooze it in time. There we go. There we go. We don't need an ad. Right at the end of our stream, as we're about to leave. There we go. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Data, for that poll. Thank you for being here and being awesome. And thank you for all the hydrates, everybody. I appreciate it. There we go, there we go. Let us go and show some love to Sir Charles Q. Banks. And I will see you guys for some racing tomorrow and, of course, diving afterwards. Stay awesome, everybody. God bless. Love you all, and I'll see you tomorrow for some fun racing times. Very fun racing times. So, take care, and may your day, afternoon, morning, morning, afternoon, evening, may it be restful. And I shall see you in the next one. Bye-bye.